Welcome to Wisdom Unveiled. This is deep dive number 11 in our 15-part series, and today we're really getting into the world of Hakim Abu Qasim Ferdowsi.
That's right. We're focusing less on just the epic tales and more on the philosophical and ethical heart of his work.
And we're drawing heavily on some fascinating discussions, aren't we?
Yes, specifically from conversations with Iranian philosophers Dr. Ibrahim Dinani and Dr. Esmail Mansouri Larijani, featured on the program Marifat. Our goal here is to kind of unpack their understanding of Ferdowsi's deeper wisdom.
Exactly. And just a necessary note before we jump in. This is a translation and reproduction of conversations with Iranian philosophers like Dr. Ibrahim Dinani and Dr. Esmail Mansouri Larijani. Some concepts or details may not be fully conveyed. We apologize in advance for any discrepancies. Your feedback is always welcome, of course.
Okay, so first things first. These philosophers, Dinani and Larijani, they immediately want us to see Ferdowsi as much more than just, the poet who wrote the Shahnameh.
Right, they give him some really significant labels. It goes way beyond poet.
Absolutely. They call him a hakim, which means a sage, a philosopher covering both practical everyday wisdom and the big theoretical stuff, and adib, a master of literature.
Okay, sage, philosopher, master of literature.
And then maybe the most surprising one, a musleh ejtimai, a social reformer.
A social reformer, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
That really changes how you might think about him. It suggests his work wasn't just recording the past, but actively trying to, shape things.
Precisely. So from this perspective, the Shahnameh isn't just myths and history put to verse.
It's something more functional.
They frame it as a book of practical wisdom, hikmati amali, how to live, essentially. And they use this term, saleh mamten.
Saleh Mamted, it sounds elegant. What does that capture?
It means something like the easy yet inimitable or easy yet impossible. The idea is the surface is beautiful, accessible, easy to read and enjoy.
Like the stories themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the underlying structure, the depth of meaning, the sheer craft that's impossible to truly replicate, it's got this deceptive simplicity.
That makes a lot of sense. You read it, you get the story, but you feel there's so much more going on underneath. So if it's practical wisdom, what's the absolute core subject, according to these philosophers? What's it really about?
They argue it's fundamentally about the secret of existence. Razi Hasti.
The secret of existence. Okay, that's pretty profound.
Yeah, it's not primarily about the dates and battles, but the inner reality of being human. What makes us tick, what our place is.
And that leads them to describe the human condition in a really striking way, doesn't it?
It does.
But
they present us, humans, as being in this unique spot. We're positioned between two absolutes. Hasty, absolute existence, pure being.
Everything.
And nisty, absolute non-existence. Nothingness.
Lyric suspended.
Exactly. And crucially, they say, we are the only beings truly aware of this precarious position. We know we exist, but we also know we might not exist.
Ah, okay. That awareness is the key.
That awareness, for them, is the bedrock. It's the source of all human epic, all tragedy, and actually all ethics. Why we tell big stories, why we feel deep sorrow, why we struggle with right and wrong. It all comes from knowing our place between being and non-being.
So our lives are played out on that stage, the in-between space.
Right. They call life a transient stage, a chabahi. It's this fleeting experience defined by the constant push and pull of dualities, good and evil, justice and oppression, light and dark. That's the drama of existence.
Which is exactly what fills the Shahnameh. Okay, speaking of drama and conflict, many people think of Ferdowsi and they think of war. Glorious battles, heroes.
That's the popular image, for sure, the glorifier of war. But Dinani and Larijani really push back hard on that. They argue he was fundamentally an advocate for peace.
But all the fighting, how do they square that?
Well, they point to Ferdowsi's own words. There's a line. Peace is better for me than war. They see this as a foundational belief that shapes how war is actually portrayed.
Peace is better for me than war. Okay,
Yeah.
That's direct. So war isn't celebrated then.
No. They frame it as a regrettable necessity. It's depicted as the absolute last resort, only justified when oppression is overwhelming and all attempts at peace have failed.
Are there specific examples they use to show this reluctance?
Oh, definitely. The tragedies are key. Think about the story of Rostam and Esfandiar, heartbreaking. Or even more famously, Rostam and his son, Sohrab.
Oh, that story is just devastating.
It is. And look at Rostam in these moments. He's never shown as eager for the fight. He's often reluctant, hesitant, and afterwards, he's filled with immense sorrow, deep regret. Killing Sohrab is explicitly called a sin in the text.
Right. And he prays, doesn't he? Something like, Lord, don't hold this sin against me.
Exactly that. It's this focus on the human cost, the grief, the moral weight of taking a life that they argue shows Ferdowsi's true feelings. It makes the Shahnameh, in their view, ultimately a book about the tragedy of war and the yearning for peace, humanity, love, and justice.
That completely reframes the epic. It's not about the glory of battle, but the tragedy of it. And this focus on justice, on doing right, that connects to a really central philosophical idea they find in Ferdowsi, right?
Yes, absolutely central. This is the connection between Rosti and Hesti.
Okay, Hasti is existence, being itself. What's Rosti?
Rosti is a powerful concept. It means truth, truthfulness, righteousness, integrity, straightforwardness. Think being straight, not crooked. Uprightness.
Truth, integrity, being straight. Okay, and this is intrinsically linked to Hesti, to existence. How does that work?
They point to a key verse. Lord of existence and also truth does not desire crookedness or deficiency from you.
Lord of existence and also truth. Wow, it puts them right together. So the idea
The
that
implication is huge. When you align yourself with Rosti, when you choose truth, integrity, righteousness, you're not just doing the right thing morally, you are literally aligning yourself with the fundamental nature of reality. With Hasti, you're moving with the grain of existence itself.
you're in sync with how things truly are. And the opposite then, choosing Kaji, crookedness.
That's seen as moving away from true existence. It's a deviation, a step towards non-being, towards negation. It's like trying to swim against the current of reality. It's an existential wrong turn, not just a moral one.
That gives ethical choices incredible weight. It's about reality itself.
Yeah.
And they see Rostam, the main hero, as embodying this.
Exactly. Rostam isn't just strong. He's presented as a mazar, an embodiment, a manifestation of Rosti. He stands for truthfulness, chivalry, which they connect to Photowat, straightforwardness, integrity. These qualities they see as deeply embedded in Iranian culture.
So his famous strength, it's not just muscles.
Not just muscles at all in this reading. They argue his almost supernatural strength flows directly from his alignment with Hasti because he embodies Rosti. It's described as an existential strength.
Is there a specific line about that, about his strength coming from existence?
Yes, a really powerful one. When he fell in line with the wave of existence from him, the day of Rostam's strength came to his arm.
Fell in line with the wave of existence. So his power comes from being aligned with truth, with Rosti.
That's the interpretation. It flips the script on heroism. It's not just might makes right. It's rightness Rosti. That is the source of true, enduring might because it connects you to Hasti, to being itself.
That's fascinating. And where does Rostam get this Rosti from? What's the source of his alignment?
They really emphasize his inner life, his piety, his deep reliance on God, his acts of worship. These are presented as the ultimate source of both his Rosti and the strength that comes from it.
So it's fundamentally spiritual. Do we see this in the stories?
Constantly, they point out how often Rostam prays, asking for God's help before a battle, and maybe even more importantly, his reaction after victory. He shows profound humility and gratitude.
Doesn't he put his head on the ground?
Yes, acknowledging the source. He says things like, "This great was from God the pure." He recognizes his strength isn't his own ultimately, it's a divine gift, enabled by his alignment. They contrast this sharply with pride.
Right, there's that line, no vicious trait is worse than pride.
Exactly. Rostam's humility is key to maintaining his connection to the source of Rosti. And the philosophers connect these ethics, his piety, his proper marriage, his actions directly to interpretations rooted in the Quran and the traditions of the Al-Bayt.
So his character reflects a deep ethical and religious framework that resonates with their own tradition. This focus on inner character seems to apply to leaders too, not just heroes.
Absolutely. They make the point that Ferdowsi praises qualities like justice, fairness, generosity, fundamental human virtues, regardless of who holds the power. He doesn't just flatter king because they are kings.
It's the quality of the person, not the title.
Precisely. The prime example is King Feridun, the model of the just king. They quote this amazing line, "Do justice and give, you are Feridun."
Do justice and give, you are fair done. Not just, you are like Feridun.
Exactly. You don't just imitate him, you become him. You manifest that ideal of just rule through your actions. True leadership is earned by embodying those values. They even briefly mention the old idea that a ruler's inner state, their justice or corruption, could actually affect the natural world around them.
Wow. Okay, let's shift slightly. Another major theme they highlight is knowledge learning.
Oh, knowledge is incredibly important in Ferdowsi's worldview as they present it. There are verses that really stress seeking knowledge constantly, and what it does for you internally.
What kind of verses?
Well, there's do not rest from learning, even for a moment, if you wish to kindle your soul. They connect this directly to the well-known hadith. Seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave.
Kindle your soul. That's a powerful image. Learning isn't just filling your head, it's like lighting a fire inside.
Exactly. It brings light, warmth, energy to the soul. It dispels the darkness of ignorance, allows for inner growth.
And where does this vital knowledge come from? Is it just from books?
According to their reading of Ferdowsi, no. They quote, "Knowledge is from the grace of the Lord. It springs forth from the soul." This is key. True knowledge has a divine source, God's grace, and it emerges from within the soul itself, not just from external material sources.
So it's spiritual in origin, and they link this to immortality.
Yes, very strongly. The verse goes, "Knowledge will make your soul immortal. It makes you ruined, and it makes it live." The idea is your physical body decays, it's ruined by time, but your soul, your intellect, achieves true life and endures eternally through knowledge. The wise live on, their insights remembered.
Immortality achieved through learning and wisdom. That's compelling. But is all knowledge good? Or is there a danger in learning?
There's definitely a danger, but it's not in the knowledge itself, it's in our attitude towards it. They point to verses warning against intellectual arrogance, thinking you know it all.
What's the specific warning?
It's captured in a line like, "If you say, 'I have fully ignited the lamp of my intellect and learned all that was necessary,' the moment you think that,"
You've stopped learning.
worse. That very thought is the beginning of real ignorance. They connect it to the Quranic verse. And above every possessor of knowledge, there is another possessor of knowledge. Real knowledge is infinite. Only God has absolute knowledge. So claiming you're done learning, that's the deepest ignorance, being ignorant of your own limits.
Humility is crucial for the learner then. What about the kind of knowledge? Do they distinguish between useful facts and, well, true wisdom?
Yes, they do. They use a verse that defines ignorance. Ignorance is knowledge that has no proof. So information without a solid rational basis, without real insight or illumination, doesn't count as true knowledge.
It needs foundation. And there's that lovely comparison to rain, isn't there?
Yes, a beautiful analogy. The world is like rain in its necessity. The soul is like knowledge in its worthiness.
How does that work? What does the rain represent?
Rain is essential for the earth, right? It cleanses it, allows plants to grow, brings life. They say knowledge does the same for the soul. It purifies the soul from ignorance and vice, and it allows wisdom and virtue to grow, to sprout within you.
So knowledge is the soul's purifier and life giver. And they mention a distinction between necessity, feistaji, and worthiness, feistaji.
Right. It's a subtle but important point. Rain is necessary for the earth. But true knowledge is worthy of the soul. It's fitting, proper, inherently valuable for the soul's nature. It's not just any information that happens to be useful. It's the kind of knowledge that truly nourishes and elevates the soul. They compare it to Rumi's idea of pure rainwater versus potentially dirty water from a gutter. Both are water, but only one is truly worthy for growth.
Got it. So we should seek not just information, but worthy knowledge. And where does pursuing this worthy knowledge ultimately lead?
It leads towards God very clearly. They quote, "Strive for knowledge and incline toward God, from whom your soul has a guide."
Strive for knowledge and incline toward God.
The progression is seen as natural. The more true, worthy knowledge you gain, the more you understand the source of all things, and the more you naturally incline towards God. Knowledge originates from the divine and draws you back towards it. Since God is infinite, knowledge in this view is also infinite.
That ties it all together beautifully. Okay, one last area they touched on. The lasting power of wisdom. And maybe just as importantly, who you spend your time with.
Yes, they contrast the enduring value of words, of wisdom, with material wealth. Quotes like, "Words remain in knowledge, they are more renowned than treasure, and words remain as our memorial. You cannot compare treasure with knowledge. Wisdom is your real legacy, not gold."
A classic truth.
Yeah.
And the company we keep.
Hugely important. Ferdowsi apparently stresses seeking out wise companions. There's a stark line. "Sit with wise people, for the ignorant are not for this world or religion."
Wow, that's strong. Why is ignorant company seen as so bad?
Because it darkens the soul, misleads you, drives you down. Wise company, on the other hand, enlightens you, clarifies things, increases your own understanding. They mention anecdotes, like Jesus reportedly fleeing from an ignorant person faster than from a lion,
Right.
and a story from Imam Jafar al-Sadiq about an ascetic whose devotion lacked real understanding. The point is, who you associate with shapes your inner state profoundly.
It really does.
And they drive it home with this challenging line: A knowledgeable person who is your enemy is better than an ignorant friend.
Oof. A knowledgeable enemy is better than an ignorant friend. That really makes you think about what you value in relationships. Truth and understanding, even from an adversary, might be more valuable than misguided affection.
It's definitely a provocative thought. It challenges you to prioritize wisdom.
Well, this has been an incredible journey through Ferdowsi's thought, really illuminated by how Dr. Dinani and Dr. Larijani read him.
It certainly has. It shows him as this deep thinker, a true sage whose epic poem is layered with this profound guidance on how to live.
A guide rooted in that powerful connection between rusty truth, integrity, rightness, and hasty existence itself. It's presented almost as a manual for aligning ourselves with reality.
A powerful way to think about it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something for you to maybe reflect on. This idea that aligning yourself with Rasti, with truth and integrity, means aligning yourself with Hasti, with existence, and that this alignment is where real strength comes from. Think about a time you faced a choice, maybe a tough one, where doing the right thing felt hard or unclear. If you consciously chose the path of Rasti truth, integrity, even when it was difficult, what did that feel like? Did choosing that alignment, maybe surprisingly, unlock a kind of inner strength or perhaps reveal a way forward that you couldn't see before making that choice? Just something to consider.
Definitely food for thought.
Thank you so much for joining us for this exploration into Ferdowsi's world through the lens of these philosophers.
This was Deep Dive number 11 in our Wisdom Unveiled series.
We really hope you found it insightful, maybe sparked some new thoughts, and that you'll join us again for our next one.